Cora Holbrook could call it. Area code 781-342-0252. Guarantee Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company, guaranteed to exceed your expectation. Want to thank all those who came out a couple of weeks ago to the Home Buyers Workshop sponsored by Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company. Saw Brother Cliff there. I was pleasantly surprised to see the number of people in attendance at the library there on a Saturday afternoon, getting that knowledge about home buyers. And we're going to continue to do that. MAMLEO was proud to be one of the co-sponsors of that event there, not just because it was Black History Month, but because it was the right thing to do. So I think folks were able to take away a lot of knowledge there and understanding that buying a home is not as easy as you think. Some people equate it with buying a car.
No, it's a whole different. And buying it is one thing, but keeping it is another.
That's true, and they do the same thing as far as taking it away if you don't pay.
Yeah, exactly.
They
definitely do it.
Yeah, they evict you. So I want to say, like I said, folks, continue to get that knowledge. Knowledge is power. And we're going to be talking about that as well. Also, say hearty good morning to Brother Ditka out there, Brother Jamal, Mr. and Mrs. Harry Scales. I saw Brother Harry this week. And actually, we want to pay honor and dedicate this broadcast to our sister Carol Majors, who passed away recently and had her homecoming this past Monday. I was in attendance and got a chance to see a lot of the folks I hadn't seen in a long time. I was just telling Pastor Hobbs on the way in, there's such a generational gap with the younger officers, and you see a lot of the veteran officers, a lot of the retirees. And I was saying to some of them, and it was as it was at the church here, and I said, we need to get together for more than just funerals.
Yeah.
That's
unfortunately, I could not make it, but I did get Erica and I got the information, and Erica could not recall. She looked at Carol. She's like, she looks familiar. I said, think about 18. Think about the chief clerk at 18. Right. And then after she retired, she was also the individual that stayed at MAMLEO.
Yes, she was an office manager during my tenure.
Yeah, exactly. And Carol was very thorough.
Oh, my goodness.
Very good person.
Above and beyond. She's very active in the church.
So I was so sorry that we could not make it. Yeah. But my heart was here, man.
No, we know that. And want to say congratulations. Speaking of which, congratulations to you and the missus. 20 years, right?
20 years.
20 years. I know you guys just went and renewed your vows.
We went back to where we got married. We kind of, aloofed and, loafed off and went out and got
Las Vegas.
Got married in Vegas.
Sin City.
At the White Castle, yeah. And then that was 20 years ago.
Wow.
And so we just kind of upgraded the ring and went back and redid it.
Oh, wow. Upgraded the ring. Well, tell us a little bit about that. I know you guys got my text. I was joking.
Yeah, I got it.
What happens in Vegas doesn't stay.
We both started laughing, especially when you said, tell Erica not to leave everything in
exactly. Let it all stay in Vegas, right?
Let it all stay in Vegas.
A little inside joke for the family.
Yeah. For the cops who were fortunate enough, we knew we knew exactly where you were going with that.
Yeah,
but it was a nice time. Good. We had some family, some friends there. They came in, police officers that flew in and witnessed and did that with us. And we went out and had a nice dinner, and it was really nice. It was really nice.
I don't know of two people more deserving of that, and I could tell people, and I say to you, public, but and private. So I say in public as well. You have been an inspiration for me and how the standard of being married, what the commitment is, and the family. I was telling my wife the other day, I said, you could write the book, my brother.
I appreciate you.
You could write the book. And like I said, there's no perfection in anyone, but I think, there is a standard in when you see people that you care and love and you don't want to disappoint them, and they're showing you the right way to do things, and you go off course. You have no one to blame, really, but yourself.
You got the image, and it's a fight. I mean, like you said about Brother Scales. You got to pick your battles. Go downstairs, go somewhere else, turn the radio down.
Right.
It's not worth the tranquility of your home.
Someone gave me a mug a few years ago, and I cherish that mug. I have it on my desk at my office at home, and it says it's that. marriage is like a construction. It's a work in progress.
Yes, it.
Right?
That's it.
It's always under construction.
Always under construction.
When you actually study it, first you read it and you're like, what does that mean? Then you understand, right, is that you always are building, just like with construction, right? And you make something that has been up for 20 years and then they have to go in and tweak it, or may even have to go in and tear it down and start all over again, right? But, you know, you hope not to, because it's more expensive to start over.
Yes, it is. Right? You know what you got.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you better be comfortable with what you have.
There you go.
And God has blessed us.
Yes,
we do have.
Absolutely.
We do have a very strong relationship. And I pick my battles. She picks hers. And we give each other the space in the home. We all, like I said to her, I love you, and I'm your husband, but I have my individuality.
I love you. I'll see you in a couple of hours.
That's right. I'm going out to the man cave.
I'm going
to play golf.
Right.
I'm going to finish working, do research for my book, whatever the case may be.
Right.
But she gives me that space, and I give her that space.
It's much needed, and that's that's the benefit of growth there. So also say good morning to Brother Bridgeforth. I apologize, I'm having a little technical difficulties with my phone, so we couldn't send out the Jackson 5 to you, but we're going back to Indiana anyway. So good morning, Brother Bridgeforth down there. Having a little technical glitches this morning. I don't know if it's the weather. What's going on?
It's probably because, we haven't been here in so long. It's probably,
I know.
It's probably saying,
I know.
what is this environment?
Where is interesting. I tell you, I don't know if you get it, but I get the calls I get folks saying, "Hey,
yes, sir, I get them.
Yeah.
Are you live or are you Memorex?"
Right,
that's what I.
Even
that's
then they said, "Oh, I was listening to the broadcast." I was like, "Okay, yeah." Good morning, Brother Rhodes.
Good morning, brother.
Hail, the gang's all here.
Yeah, I'm telling you, brother. I'm telling you, we're all in the house.
In the house there, So
it's not Memorex, it's us.
We're live. It's March the 2nd. Can you believe it's already March?
Yeah,
even with that extra day in leap year this year, 29 days, we had an extra day there. So Pastor Hobbs gets ready there. We're going to have him give us a little prayer. He did a great job on Tuesday there at the service. I tell you, Pastor Hobbs is in his element when he's in that pulpit.
I'm telling you.
If you have never heard him, you think he's sharp when he come in here dressed?
Yeah.
When he is in the pulpit.
There's some pastors that other pastors look at and say, when I grow up, I'm going to be just like this.
Yeah.
I have a sermon. I'm doing a sermon on Sunday. I'm thinking about how would Pastor Hobbs do this?
Well, I tell you, he sets the bar high. He sets the bar high. And telling you, because I was telling him, it's been a while usually when I come in that I've seen the church filled like that. I mean, it was.
That's a testament to how beautiful Carol was. Just type of person she
absolutely, in the spirit, And I felt good when I went up to greet the family, and her daughter was telling me, how much I meant to Carol. It really got emotional for me because, like you said, Carol was a friend, more like a mom. And when I hired her as the office manager at MAMLEO during my tenure as president, she went above and beyond. There was never anything, if there was a rental of something, she knew I wasn't close by. She would always take care of it. That would bother me. Took care of her brother. He was sick. Just a family person and stood by her family, even though sometimes people might have thought it was controversial, but she stood by them. She didn't condone the behavior of some of it, but she stood by them, as a mom and lived in the community a lot. Till she went home. She was in the home that she had bought and was an active member of this church.
Absolutely. Yes.
She was an active
I didn't know she was a member of this church.
Yeah.
Yes. That's when I would come on Sundays. One of the first faces I would see.
Yeah, she's one of the ushers as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you knew her intimately as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I could hear that in your sermon. I could hear it in Pastor Wall when he was talking about his interactions. Sometimes, the pastors and stuff, someone's a member and they just kind of blend in. So you really don't know them. They're main members of the church. But then there's the active ones that.
She was definitely active and served here at GMCC. A tremendous blessing.
So, if you wouldn't mind, sir.
Sure. Father God, we bless you. We give you praise. We thank you for this day that you've made, and we will rejoice and we'll be glad in it. We're so grateful for the opportunity to be on the air live once again. And God, we ask you just to bless this broadcast, bless all that's said, bless all that's done. Your spirit rest, rule, and reign in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Again, you are listening to a live rendition of At the Round Table with MAMLEO. The calling number here is 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. I said it. The three amigos are here. Myself, Mr. Rhodes. How you doing, brother?
Doing quite well. Thank you for asking.
You're awfully quiet this morning.
Well, I just got in and then
just woke up. He just got in. Okay, let's talk about that. You just got in. Let's talk about that. You just got in. The club's closed at 2.
Oh yes, but no, I'm
you need a moment.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
You good?
Yes,
you good.
Yeah, I was feeling inspired by the talking of your friend that passed away.
Carol.
I was like, Carol, and I was like, well, you know what? I don't feel like I've done enough. You don't feel like you're like, oh, you're like, I think you're doing enough, and then you realize like, what will be said about me, and have I done anything? Have I lived up to?
They always talk about, they say, it's on your headstone. There's a beginning and the end date, and the most important is that dash in between is what you've done while you were here, because you can't control the other two. But you can control what you do
in between.
In between, and a lot of people don't realize that, but it's so true. But like I said, she will be missed, but not forgotten. I think, like I said, I cherish, because like I said, I came on the police department, and that's the type of family, that's the type of leadership and mentoring that you got as a young officer from, and real talk, and folk, I ran into Adonica chat, and these were people, even though you had equal police powers, there was a level of respect that you had for them, right? You were their equal in the work, but you were not their equal in status, and you respected that, and they weren't disrespectful to you, but they had paid their dues. And now it's just the opposite. These young officers now, Larry,
right to the head, you knew your spot. You know what I mean? You came in and you knew that you were a rookie, or you were a young police officer, and although these individuals had the same police powers that you have, but they had more experience. They understood how the department worked, and you looked up to them because they guided you. They would give you, information and say, well, no. Grasshopper, relax. Relax.
Yes, sincere.
It's like, this is what you should do. This is how it works. And, no, you don't want to. And a lot of these individuals, right, when you get into controversy of even a lower level, you would write your reports and you would give it to this individual, say, "Will you read this to make sure?"
Right.
And they will welcomely do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then what they would do is that you would not have your business all over the department.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
They will come back and say, "No, son, you don't want to put that in here because this is what could happen after that." You're
exactly.
like, "Oh my God, I didn't think about that."
Right.
So you really love the fact that you had someone to fall back on. Today, I'm not quite sure because I haven't been there in 14 years. But what I'm hearing is not.
Well, I can tell you,
like that.
Dr. Bradley and Rhodes, I just recently retired, and I think it's a big part of why I left too, because it had changed so much where you couldn't even really approach these young officers. They know it all, and they're going to pay a big price for not, because knowledge is power, and they just didn't have that guidance. A lot of the supervisors are young, and I'm not begrudging them for that, but there's a learning curve of the job first, even before you can start being the boss. And really, there's a huge vacuum in leadership, not just in this profession, but and that's why it's not attracting people to it, because you're finding people that are getting into trouble because they won't listen, or if you don't send it to them in a tweet or a text, they have no use for it. That human interaction is not something that they're comfortable with. And that is the huge bulk of being a police officer.
Exactly. You have to interact with people.
Right.
And that is something that is scary, the fact that if they're not even willing to interact with other people within the department, how they're going to be able to react to people in the general public.
Right.
And then one of the things I wanted to mention is the fact that, it's kind of like you said, a general symptom of the society, because union membership is going down. And then so even with MAMLEO, where you think it would be a group of guys trying to stick together and something, the camaraderie is not there, and people are just more divided and trying to do things, just based on individuality and stuff.
Well, I always say, and I keep saying I got to get it on a T-shirt. I say if you're here long enough, you'll get a turn, right? And some will get two, right? And we've seen that, right? And I tell people, right, and it is so true. And I tell people all the time is that if everything is going great, you still need MAMLEO because everything needs a check and balance, right?
Yes.
Just think about what's going on in this country. We're going to get into that. If there's no check and balance on behavior, you get out of control.
It certainly feels that way. That there's no check and balance on the behavior of a particular
right. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. No. And so
a particular party.
Right. Absolutely. And now like I said, I think it's a good way to pivot this segue. Because there's an election here in several other states on Tuesday. A lot of people don't even know Super Tuesday that the election. I'll wait for the general election.
No, and the decision is made in the primary.
Absolutely, and then let your voice be counted because the more you vote, you become what they call a super voter.
Yes,
right. And I vote. In my town, I don't care.
Which is what Erica and I.
Yes.
But okay.
Right.
But I hear you. First of all, the upcoming election. I'm glad we're talking about this because I am, a super voter, but I am also very erudite in our government and how our government function. And what I'm seeing is the mechanisms put in place to keep the parties and keep each branch of the government in order is breaking down.
Breaking down.
Yeah.
It's a wrecking ball.
It's breaking down, Doc. You know what I'm saying to myself? Okay, what happens when the judiciary is biased?
Right.
Because when the
highest court in the land.
Yes.
Right.
When that particular part of government is partisan to the and it's the highest court because it was put in place to be the big boy in the room,
right?
Because the founders kind of knew that the executive branch and the legislative branch are going to go at each other because it's about power,
right?
You know what I mean? And that was put there to be the big boy in the room,
right?
And I'm just not seeing that.
No, not at all. Just the opposite. I mean, this whole recent decision, if folks aren't aware what Dr. Bradley is alluding to, is that the Supreme Court's deciding to take on the immunity.
Yes, and it was already decided by the lower court. Exactly. And they should have just stuck with that decision. Yes,
right.
Unanimously.
There is nothing.
And there's nothing in the argument that they can argue.
No, but what it does is it delays. For Dr. Bradley's point, it's that it delays the process for Donald Trump because Donald Trump is not running to be president.
He's running to pardon himself.
Revenge. He's running to get rid of these cases.
Yep.
That are before him, these federal cases. He can't get rid of the state cases, but he's running to get his attorney general to dismiss these federal cases.
Well,
and his attorney general doesn't have to. His attorney general can actually say yes.
We're going to pursue these. And that brings up another point. All right, so there's two issues here. The Supreme Court should not be involved in trying to circumvent, an individual's requirement before the court. It should not be involved in that.
Absolutely.
So it knows, the Supreme Court knows that you cannot have a society that's ruled by law and then say, well, someone has immunity to the law.
That someone is above the law.
That's what they're saying. Total immunity. Right. All right, regardless. And Trump didn't really think this through, in my opinion, or his people, because if the Supreme Court come back and say, yes, the president has total immunity, while he's president, that means that Biden can say to
SEAL Team 6, take him out.
Go kill Trump.
That's right.
And everything is fine.
That's right. You see what I mean? Or he could say, come January 6th, I'm not leaving.
Exactly.
The elections mean nothing.
It doesn't make any sense. And they know that. These guys are smart enough, and people, I should say, are smart enough to know that. So why are they taking a case that was so well written, so well decided? It's because they want to delay his day before the court.
That's right.
That's the reality of it. And when the court is in that situation,
it's not a Supreme Court.
It's
an inferior court.
I have no respect for it.
And that's what they're saying, the respect. And you've highlighted something numerous times on this broadcast, that the Supreme Court has no enforcement mechanism, that people will voluntarily. And here's the other thing about the hypocrisy of it, right, is that you have states now like Texas and Alabama and Georgia, a lot of them now are saying that, well, if we like what the Supreme Court says, we'll abide by it.
If we
don't,
let them enforce it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Come and get us.
Yeah, I mean, you have made the decision. Now enforce it.
Right.
You can make the decision all you want to, but and that's what the Supreme Court doing is damaging its reputation.
Absolutely.
By taking such a frivolous review on something that is obviously, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know, it goes against the grain of the system.
And they're going to try to make themselves seem like they're doing the right thing because there's no way they can come up with any other decision other than that the president does not have total immunity.
No, exactly.
Unless they want to put their own self in peril, because that means that he can kill them and be exonerated.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
You know?
It doesn't.
Does not make any sense.
It doesn't.
I'm just so sad. But
But not surprised.
I'm not surprised. But this means that our democracy, as we see it, is in serious peril. See, the way I'm looking at it, and my wife and I, we were talking about this, and I said something to her that I felt very strongly about. And I said, well, honey, listen, we have to be, now that we are adults, and we are the adults in the room, we have to be proper stewards of our democracy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because our parents and our foreparents were proper stewards of democracy.
That's right.
And that's how we were able to live under freedom.
Right.
To the point, no one's totally free. I don't mean it that way. But having, able to participate and able to vote. If this man gets in office, he's making it very clear.
Yeah, no. But the thing I feel is that the problem with our democracy is that the citizens aren't empowered. That the citizens have been so null and dull that they no longer feel like, hey, it matters what my voice says, because every time people go out and protest and do things, they're met with resistance.
Right.
And also they're not given the mental capacity of the vocabulary or the understanding to actually feel that they're in the right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everything that they say, they're made to question everything that they're questioning, like, because the authority that the government has belittles their grievances.
Right.
And then so when that happens, there's a psychological ploy that or maybe they are right, maybe I'm in the wrong, and then the citizens kind of say, okay, well, it's too complicated. Let me just, they know what they're doing.
Right. Well, this is this American experiment that has been working for over 200 years that is now in jeopardy, and that's what it's been. It's been an experiment, and you thought there were safeguards in the Constitution against folks like the 14th Amendment, Article 3, because you can't say that the Republicans have all these rights, and then you have states who interpret, like Colorado, and then recently Illinois, saying that Donald Trump should not be on the ballot because of his participation in the insurrection. It's right there. And,
Yes.
but they try to say, well, it doesn't say the president. He's not an officer. The president is the highest officer in the land, right? But it doesn't apply to the president. You think that they would think, oh, the president has free reign. That's why they didn't say in the Constitution that the president has total immunity. But again, I go back to, gentlemen, the hypocrisy of it all, right? Because look what just happened down there, and this is where people were talking about whatever side of the aisle you stand on abortion rights. It's about people's rights, right? And now they're coming after the rights. And Clarence Thomas, who may be black on the outside, but he's saying, and Alito and those folks that are saying, and I like Oreos,
I do too, but he's not
that women don't have a right to total autonomy of their bodies and their doctors. And we're not talking about people that just went out and got pregnant and they just don't want to have, they want to dispose of the child because they don't want to have it. These are people who have some serious medical issues. The woman in Texas there, she's a physician who the doctors told her that the child she was carrying was septic, and that if she carried this child to term, the child would not live, and it could kill her.
Yes.
I mean, but that's not a good enough. They said, no, you must carry this child to term. You must carry this child. And now Alabama is saying that a frozen embryo is a human being. Is a child. I mean, and that you must. So folks who, like you, I think you said, it's the dog that caught the car, right? Now they want to just say, well, this election is only about immigration. No, it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, one of the things I have to give to Republicans, why I do not, when I go into the poll and I see an R, that means reject. That's what I just know.
I love that. R for reject. The R is for reject.
I don't.
D is for deciding.
I don't concur with their ideology. I don't agree with it, and so I tend not to even focus on it. But I think the problem here is I think the problem is twofold, multiple folds. One of the problems we have in this country is that we have lost generations with an S of people who are savvy and intelligent about civics and understand exactly how the government works. Because I hear people saying some things like, are you kidding me? All right. And the other thing that we have lost here is that back in the 1920s, there was a requirement for radio stations and television stations and any media outlet, and it was called the Fairness Doctrine. The Fairness Doctrine basically says that in order for you to have your license, the information that you're putting out over the air have to be predicated on or supported on facts. You just can't go out and just throw everything against the wall and hope that something fits. Well, they repeal that particular doctrine, and so now there's no control. So this thing that we have here called the phone, the social media, has really been used as an instrument to contaminate the minds of people who will usually make solid decisions,
right?
Especially about our government. And it also has given our foreign adversaries a pipeline into the minds of the voter.
Yes,
well,
that's the problem.
A perfect example of that was, you would think they would have learned their lesson, right? Fox News, right? Almost, $1 billion, right, judgment against them for pumping out false lies, right?
Yeah, $750 billion.
Right, and here we get, this Hunter Biden, right? They claim that, President Biden was involved in this,
$750 million.
$787 million.
Okay.
Right, and that's just one of it. There's several other ones that are out there outstanding that they're going to either have to settle or go to court with, right? Who are suing as well because it ruined their reputations, and they had no defense of that other than ratings, right? And how much money we're going to profit off of that.
But it's not about. But that's the point, though, my brother. It's not about what's right. It's about ratings.
Right.
It's
And
about
making
profit.
money.
It's about money.
Right.
So we don't really care. I'm telling you, fellas, our democracy, from the way I see it,
It's in peril.
It's in peril.
Absolutely.
It's in peril. And this is, if there's any time that black people need to get up and state and show them their support and vote, this is it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely on the ballot.
How do we get people to be as plugged in as we are, right? And I give a perfect example. You talk about insult. I don't know if you guys paid attention recently when Donald Trump was at the Black Conservative convention in South Carolina, right?
Well, that in itself, in my mind, is oxymoronic. How can you be black and be a conservative? What are you conserving in America?
Right.
I don't get it. But anyway, go on.
No, so it would be like Dr. Bradley, I can only see the black people in here because of the lights.
My God.
And you sit there and you have someone say that, and he says that you black people can relate to me because you have criminal records and you saw my picture mugshot on
I got credibility. I got street credit.
So let me ask this question: all the social issues that are plaguing the black community, you coming to the table with that?
Right.
You can't come to the table and give me your solution for redlining. Disparity and
he's guilty of redlining himself. That's right.
I got it. But unemployment,
yes,
poor education, housing, medical, all these issues that the black community has been dealing with for years.
Right.
And that's all you can come to the table with.
Exactly.
Is that you can relate to me because I have a mugshot.
And on the way out, get a pair of my glitter sneakers.
Yeah, exactly. I got some gold. I got some gold
LeMay
sneakers, gold trumps.
Gold LeMay trumps.
Get my trumps.
Right. Get some of those. But
that's it.
Sadly,
that fact that he actually had an audience for that.
Right. Exactly.
That is really sad.
Well, actually, not only did he have an audience for it, but some people clapped.
Right.
Some folks clapped when he said, everybody knows the mugshot. Everybody got the mugshot, and but black people can relate to it because you.
But when he starts off saying that the lights in here are so bright, I can only see the black people. I can only see the black people.
Wow!
Can we bring
that wasn't? That wasn't the cue to get up and walk out.
Yeah.
That would have been the story for them having enough courage, having enough dignity of themselves, to have him say that the lights are so bright in here, and that my T-shirt, that's why they can relate to me because they have criminal records too, and that they're
and then again
victims like him. He's a victim.
Again, that shows you the American educational system is nothing but an indoctrination. Because if those people cannot see that as an insult on their side, and they're supposed to be the conservative, they're supposed to be the smart ones in their community, the ones apparently they're successful enough to where he's going to come down there and feel safe enough to come. They've definitely done a job of actually indoctrinating
Go ahead.
black people into this.
I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones. That's how far I've come.
Well, I'm gonna bring this.
Yeah, good. No, go ahead.
Wow.
You know, this is what.
These lights are so bright at my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones. You see? That's how far I've come.
No, there's
That's
more.
how far I've
No, I only got.
No, that's how far he's come. That he can only
See
see.
black ones.
time and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing. And then I got indicted.
Oh, I'm sorry, folks. I'm just trying to bring this up the best I can.
No. Take your time.
I'm not.
Because it's important.
Time and a third.
I'm not.
Time and a fourth time.
It's
A lot
just
of people
his
said
voice is funny
that that's
now.
why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated against. It's been pretty amazing. And then I got indicted a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And they actually viewed me as I'm being discriminated.
So in other words, black people understand how to put indictment because they're criminals,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So they understand how
Exactly.
it's going.
Right.
So they love me because I'm in the same boat with them.
And how many of them are multi-millionaires, right? That they can relate to him.
Yeah.
It's just such an insult, to have someone that ignorant of an understanding of history. He said so being able to look out and the lights are in his eyes and that he can only see black people, that he has evolved so much. That has been the growth when it comes to him with black people, that he can see them in a room with the lights too bright. What does that say? And the people going around here saying I was talking to Pastor Hobbs on the way in, and he was saying to me that some of the folks behind the walls were saying that Trump, they got these checks. People, if you qualified, you got a stimulus check. It had nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Well, see, that's the other side, Larry, is that a lot of people don't understand that our economy is like an aircraft carrier. You don't stop at an aircraft carrier on the dime. You don't turn an aircraft carrier on the dime. Where I'm going with this is that when one president is making changes to the economy, you don't really see those changes until the next president is coming in. So if that president serves 2 terms, which is the reason why the founders said we need to have 2 terms, because when you're making those changes, you put in those policies in, they don't start to take root and start manifesting themselves in the economy until years after that. So in other words, what Trump did, what people associated with Trump in the academy, those policies were put in place during the Obama administration.
Right.
The bad economy that we just getting over, those policies were put in place during the Trump administration. So people don't understand. They think like, well, he put the policies in and everything going to be good. No, it takes time for those policies to reverberate themselves through.
But Trump really did no policies to help people at that level. It was for his rich friends. He said to them, hey, look, I took care of you. You guys owe me. I got this huge tax cut for rich people. A lot of the changes affected people, working class people, in a negative way. The changes when it comes to the interest in the taxes, the write-offs for your taxes on your home, that didn't. Rich people have a lot of money. They don't care about that. And if I cut your tax rate from 31% or 28% down to 20%, I'm saving way more than that than what the taxes would be.
Yeah, but the question becomes, and I think this is a valid question for the community, especially the community of color, because if the white folks get a cold, we're going to get the flu. All right,
we get pneumonia.
But my question is, what are we going to do?
Well, that's the That's the $1 million question, because we've discussed it so many times, and we like to hear from our listening audience. 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. There's an election out there. You might see a sandwich board around the city that's telling you that there's an election. But how plugged into our folks really into how serious this election is? And they say, well, I live in Massachusetts. It's pretty safe. No, these bans and these things, these are passed at the federal law. These laws go into effect, and they will affect you here. As people thought, making abortion illegal in Mississippi and some of these southern states would not impact here. Now they're saying, you know what? You contraceptives, IVF, you can't.
Oh, national.
Exactly.
National. But Larry, I think the answer is not the answer. The question is twofold. What are we going to do about beating this guy in the poll?
Mm-hmm.
And then are we going to be prepared for the ramifications of his loss?
Right.
Because I don't see, watch this now, I don't see people who are steeped in white supremacy going back and sitting back and say, okay, we just lost this one. We're going to, I think, in history in America, usually when those folks don't get what they want, they resort to violence.
Right.
Violence.
That's what the history
And
says.
exactly.
You know what I mean?
And that's the thing.
And so when he loses, I can only hope that he's going to lose this, then what would be the ramifications of that on the social level? And I think it's going to be a lot of violence that we have to be ready to deal with.
Yeah.
I totally agree, but I think also more to the point is that I think it's a way, as you were speaking to earlier, it's a way of the folks saying to the Supreme Court, you don't have the final say. You're not going to protect Donald Trump as much as you want to delay him going and being held. We're going to hold him accountable at the ballot box, right? So no matter what you do, this delay tactic of him being held accountable, because I think the only trial that's going to go place, and thank goodness for the courts in New York, the judges there saying, no, Donald Trump, you're not above the law, and you're not going to delay this. This trial here is starting March 25th, and the other ones, and you continue with your behavior, we're going to hold you accountable, like in the Eugene Carroll civil case, where first he got hit with the $5 million judgment, and he says, that's chump change. I'll continue. And the judge said, okay. We go back in here, and they went back in, and then the defamation is, he continued with it. Now it's $88 million, right? And combined, it's over $90 million just in that one. And then the other case where Letitia James, the Attorney General from the state of New York, just recently won now the one that's over 400, and with the interest, $100 and something thousand interest every single day, right? And she tweeted that out, and that he lost his mind. This is a guy who said he had all this money, and now he's saying to the courts,
he's broke.
Can you help me out? I don't have the money to post, because they're saying if you want, unlike with criminal trials, in civil cases, most people know you must post the bond in case you lose. You don't get a free shot at it when you lose. So put up or shut up.
I mean, you can appeal, but you're gonna have to post that bond
for the amount that in case you lose, the person gets their money. You don't get a free toss.
It's kind of funny to me that right now he's using campaign donations.
That's
to
why
actually flip his legal bills, and no one's taking him to court about that.
Well, that's the thing is, and he wants his daughter-in-law to be the co-chair of the Republican National Committee. They're getting rid of the other lady because I think somebody's probably saying, "Wait a minute, we're going broke here. Footing your legal bills. We have no money left, and yet the folks are following the Pied Piper."
I have a solution for Donald. Go to his son-in-law Krishna. He got
$2 billion from Saudi Arabia.
Go to him. You know what I mean? He can give you the $400.
Putin wouldn't mind writing
him a check. You know what I mean? So the thing is, but we have to understand that he is beholden not to the American people.
There you go. Yeah.
He's beholden to these individuals who are funding him.
Right. Yeah.
And that is really what people. And then what he's doing, he's tapping into that sin, that old sin of America was that we don't have, the haves telling the have-nots on the white side.
Right.
You're not as good as us, but you're better than this guy.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So therefore, you don't need to associate with them.
Fears.
You're better than me.
And again, the history of this country is like no matter what, every time the black and white people tried to get together, the poor people, they always put a wedge.
Well, I mean,
with the KKK, the Reconstruction, because it was the People's Party, and they really trying to form together and say, hey, look, they're actually abusing us.
Right.
Like we're poor, let's get together. And then they made sure to put a wedge in that, and the KKK and Reconstruction to it's the whites versus the blacks.
But it's also another version of the dog catching the car. Right now, some of the senators in there bipartisan. They claim the border is a problem. Right. They come up with what wasn't going to fix it, but something that was going to address the problem there, right?
Yeah.
And then Donald Trump said, well, we can't have Joe Biden looking like a victory. How about the country having a victory to the problem and addressing the situation at the border,
taking care of the people.
See, now, as an individual who understands the system, that is a problem.
Yeah.
When you can have someone who's not the president control your House of Representatives to
Right.
the point where they're the
He's the
controlling
Speaker of the House.
party,
Right.
who's the majority leader, and he can say, "Well, we're not putting this on the floor because this guy,
Right.
who's not the president,
Right.
telling me not to do it."
That's right.
He did the same thing with the Ukrainian
Aid. That's
aid.
right.
He did the same thing with the border, and so you have senators and representatives on the Republican side flying down to Mar-a-Lago
Right.
to
kiss
ask
the ring.
him,
Right.
what should we do?
Right.
That in itself should tell people that
The-
they are not servicing.
No, they
them.
lost the
They're
democracy.
servicing
Exactly.
him.
Him, yeah.
But even with that, gentlemen, and help me out here, help me understand it, because even with that, ask Kevin McCarthy how kissing the ring worked out for him. Ask all of those folks who, at the end of the day, Donald Trump
They go
only
to
cares
prison.
about him,
Yeah.
but he only cares about himself, right?
Yeah.
So he didn't, he went down there, kissed the ring, and as soon as you have to do what's right for the country, right, by putting something on the floor and having a vote, and if Donald Trump doesn't want it, the spoiled brat, then he says, okay, you must be fired. And they fired him, right? So how'd that work out for you?
Yeah, but you see, Larry, white people don't see that. And let me explain this to you. And I don't mean to be racist here because that's not who I am
No,
as a
not at
person.
all.
I'm a man of God. I see everybody through that lens. But when you are afraid, think about this now. When you are afraid that you're losing your house, you're losing your power, and you have someone who can say, okay, I can give you this power back, then you're probably more apt to say, well, he has deficiencies, but I'm not going to worry about that. He's going to give me my power
Right.
back. So when you have white folks who are afraid that America is growing blacker and browner every day, and eventually my superiority in numbers will dwindle to nothing because my birth rate is not keeping up with my death rate. And so people are dying off and white people are not being. This is the whole issue around
Right.
abortion. This is the whole issue around preventing IVF and all those different things around, because they feel like we have to have these numbers because in democracy, supposedly the majority should rule.
Right,
All right?
supposedly, right.
All right? And so if you have a democracy that yields a black president, I have already lost that. Now, and so that you have now given my highest office to a black man who used to be in the cotton fields, all right? And now you're telling me that, that the black vote is going to determine who's going to be the next individual in the office. So therefore, I'm losing. I don't have the power that my forefathers had. So the issue here for white folks with Donald Trump, they see his deficiencies. They don't care.
Right.
It's about power.
No, and you're right, and Rhodes as well, because you think about it, the Ted Cruz's and Marco Rubio and a lot of these folks, right, when they were running against Donald Trump, they were telling and describing the real Donald Trump and how bad he was, and even what's his name there, this Lindsey Graham, right, who said Donald Trump would be a dictator. I mean, he labeled him right. Now all of a sudden they so want to be so close to what they perceive as power, but here's the problem. 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, they have been losing only in these staunch conservative, and now with some of these going too far, like the dog catching the car, with this whole thing with abortion and IVF, that even somebody say, wait a minute, that's a bridge too far.
Well, I had to rely on the women in my family to explain to me, and although I have a PhD, I don't have an MD.
Right.
So I didn't really understand the gravity.
But and more importantly than any of those degrees,
Yeah.
you're not a woman.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going.
Right.
I didn't understand the gravity of the IVF,
Right.
and I'm not a female,
Right.
And so what really struck me when I saw this is that all the men are making decisions on how a female body on a
Exactly.
female's body. I'm like,
Right.
wait a second, dude, you're not a woman. You don't understand what they're going through here. So I had my wife and my daughter and my sisters and my friends explain to me this whole issue around IVF, and then when they finished it, I was like, "Oh my God, why would you vote for them?"
But my whole thing is that it brings a whole issue then of equality. If the representation is not there, as far as like just a man making the decision for a woman, and
Right.
it's supposedly in a democracy, that's not equality.
But gentlemen, what about the hypocrisy? Because these are the same men who are saying, "I have a right to bear arms." But you don't have a right to bear, whether you want to bear a child or what to do with your body. That no one should be telling me the Second Amendment trumps, no pun intended, me being able to have total autonomy that I can have whatever weapon I want, or weapons of destruction, but yet I can then turn around and tell you that I can also control what you do with your body.
Well, Larry, as you think about it, when you look at the genders, a female is really a superhero, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They got superhero powers.
And
They got the power to produce another human being.
Yeah.
I don't want that power, because if it's anything like a kidney stone, I don't want it. all
Listen,
right? But to tell
I've been in the room when my daughters were born.
I have too.
And I'm like,
Are you kidding me? And they have the power to do that. So you're going to tell them, if you're violated, think about this now. If you're violated,
right,
and you decide that you don't want to give your body to this man, and he actually used the strength that God has given him over you, physical strength,
right,
to take your body, you are forced to carry his seed?
well, I think
It doesn't make any sense.
I think, and to that point, gentlemen, there's been so many of those. The 10-year-old in Ohio that was raped by a family member, and they had to leave the state to have an abortion, saying that she must carry this child to term.
10
What
years
about
old.
thank you. The mental and the physical, what she's going through, having been raped by a family member, was bad enough, and now I have to raise.
And then what are you
his
doing?
child?
What you doing to the child that's coming in?
Yeah.
That's gonna be, you got to have a fight against that child. Probably gonna end up going to a public, a public assistance.
Right.
You're gonna be hated by the individual who had to force to have the child. So the child, you're putting the child in a very bad situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. And I'm saying to myself, why are women voting for
Because
this guy?
again, it makes
Why are they
sense.
voting for
It makes sense for the Republican Party because they invest in prisons, they invest in weapons, they invest in mass destruction. So it's like, to them, it's like, oh, we got more people to put in the pipeline.
But
in the
here's
prison.
the other hypocrisy of that, right? You say that you're pro-life, but these are the ones. Most of these states have the death penalty.
See, yes.
You know what I would say, though? I think it's important that we be very cognizant of the fact that we're making comments and we're making conversations on things that we're not women. I would like to have a woman come in here and
I
talk
would
to
agree,
us,
but I
and
think,
call us
but-
to say this is what.
No,
this
I
is
think
what
that they would
like.
not disagree with most of what we're saying.
I do.
Because what we're saying is that because we're not, we can't
Yeah.
sit here and say
But-
what they should do with their bodies.
Exactly, but what I want to do is I'm trying to prevent that other side of the argument.
Oh,
from
no.
coming in and
And
say,
if there's
well, you
women
guys
listening-
are doing the same thing. You're making these assumptions based on the fact that what you're hearing, you're not a woman. I would like to have a woman call in or a female actually
Yeah.
come in and say, this is how I see it.
Yeah.
This is my, my contribution to the round table topic.
Right. No, and that number is 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. But like I said, I think it's just the ultimate in the hypocrisy of it all is that, people that are saying pro-life. Matter of fact, there was a gentleman who was on death row, and I don't know if he was executed. Another day
He was.
trying to get a pardon from the governor in Texas there,
Yeah,
right?
he was executed.
And so, but how can you be pro-life if at all stages of life you're saying, right, that life means something, but yet and then you want to criminalize women for having an abortion?
But if I can get you emotional about losing your perceived superiority in America, those issues don't matter because I'm not going to actually you're not going to make that connection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I agree with you, but we're sitting down and we're rational people and we're kind of making those connections to the issue. But I'm saying to myself, you know what? My grandfather was able to get people to work for him, my great for free, and then my grandfather was able to get a job because it was deemed as his, as opposed to giving it to a person of color or a woman. I don't have those benefits today, and I have to compete now. My whiteness is not going to just give me the job. I got to compete. I'm losing something. It's those zero-sum gains that they are saying, okay, we're losing. The problem I have with the Republican Party, wherever I look at it, starting since 1964, it's all about white rule. It's all about, a hierarchical society that's ruled by white men. That's what turns me off about their philosophy. I don't care what black folks are looking at. Yeah. That's where they're going. Look at what they're sending to Washington,
right?
In terms of their representatives.
No, I agree, and it's become a clown show because the Republicans in this Congress have not passed anything of any substance at all. At all, it's been the grievance. It's let's get Hunter Biden, and even that has
It's a joke.
imploded.
That is
on
going
them.
to be back. That's going
It's
to backfire.
imploded. It is.
Yeah.
It's imploded on them. Their star witness, who they claim had all the goods, has now been arrested and indicted twice, right, for lying and being a Russian operative. I guess Donald Trump says to our allies that if and this is how you know that someone who held at one time held the highest office in the land doesn't even understand how NATO works. There's not a fee that people pay into it. Each one says that they're going to allocate a certain percentage of their GDP towards their military. That's how. There is no check. He's saying that if they don't write checks, that he's going to tell Putin, do whatever you want with them. What he does. This is how ignorant he is, folks, and how dangerous he is.
Yes.
Because the agreement that the United States has with our allies under NATO, that an attack on NATO, this is why when we were attacked here on our land on 9/11, all of our allies came that are part of NATO came to our aid
Article
to fight
5.
with us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Article 5.
In Iraq. In Iraq. So to say that we won't be dragged into this because you feel like, no, we are legally bound to that. And just like with Hitler didn't stop at one country. He continued. And if you think that Putin, now that Donald Trump has given him the green light, and now that Congress is not funding these folks, they're not asking for us to put any boots on the ground. They're saying, oh, we're running out of ammunition. We're running out of bullets. And this guy's not going to stop in Ukraine. He's already said it. He is going to cross over into one of our NATO countries, and we're going to have to jump into this war.
Yeah. What he's trying to do, from a public policy perspective, he tried to reconstitute the borders that was in place during the Soviet Union.
Right.
So that means Poland, Estonia,
Norway,
Moldova,
right.
all those
Right.
borders, all those countries are going to be consumed.
Right.
And he's trying to do it piece by piece because
right.
he knows that he doesn't want to get into a confrontation, not yet, with NATO.
Right.
Because his army on the conventional level will be
it
wiped
would've
out
been
in a
awful.
week.
Right.
You know, that's the army. I served in the military.
Right.
That is the army that
Right.
Putin want to put against America. It won't last.
Good luck.
Trust me.
Right.
All right. All he is, all that country is from a military perspective, is a regional power with nuclear weapons.
Right.
They're not far-reaching. China is more of a challenge to America than Russia. So don't get it twisted. But what he's doing, though, if he can get an ally in the White House
to hold back
the
response,
resources,
right?
the
You get
entire,
it.
military industrial complex,
Right.
hold that back from
Right.
America.
Right.
Now I don't have to worry about the Patriot missiles. I don't have to worry about the Mars and all those different types
Right.
of sophisticated weaponry that can wipe me out in a second.
Right.
Don't have to worry about the Warhawk plane to provide support. All those things that will come over to Ukraine,
Right.
who will be fighting and holding their own.
Right.
All right, I don't have to worry about
But
it.
I
can
think,
get this guy in office.
as you alluded to, Article 5 doesn't allow us to have that discretion. It says we must. So I think this is where, by having someone as ignorant to how things work as Donald Trump, Putin thinks, oh, okay, Donald Trump can stop these things. He cannot stop us. If one of our allies are invaded, we must go to their aid.
We must. But see, and this is the thing. This is where civics is important for people. The Senate controls the whole things
purse.
around treaties
That's
and all
right.
that. The money is controlled by Congress.
That's right.
The Senate controls the treaty. So NATO is a treaty.
That's right.
So we have to honor it.
That's
He
right.
can't pull us out of it.
Exactly.
Because unless the Senate
Right.
agree to it. So that means that when we are voting, even if he wins, if the Democrats win the House,
Right.
On both chambers, he's locked.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
And the
He's
people,
locked.
they're starting to see that. I mean, thankfully, and I'm trying to be optimistic about this, but I'm very fearful as well. I'll be honest with you, that if this nut job gets back into the White House,
Well, the thing is, people I feel have to be empowered to understand that, like,
how do we do that, brother? Help us out. We got 2 minutes before we take our break.
I get it reaching the people because, again, the media is controlled and by the powers that be, and if you don't have the funds, so grassroots people, just to getting the message so people can understand that how fragile this democracy is. So I don't know, I don't have the answer, but it definitely has to come from the people.
I think what we need to do, I think the issue, we need to regulate our social media to a point where people can't just out there and put out lies.
The Alex
But
Joneses.
that's before the courts now, and they're
exactly.
basically saying you
And
can
I
put
think-
whatever you want.
And I think you also need to take dark money You know, after the result of the election committee and the
But the Supreme Court overturned. It was out. The Supreme Court, the way it's shaped now, put it back in.
Yeah, but you had a case between the election committee as well as the Citizen United, and they pretty much allowed dark money to come into it. So dark money is actually buying buying our government. I think that's another way that we need to look at it, and I think every individual has to take it on their own to research and triangulate their data until these policies are in place. You just cannot take one source of information and say this is truth, this is fact. Not in today's society, because the truth is a very rare commodity in the news that we're receiving today.
And AI is playing a big portion in that too, right? This recent, that sounded just like Joe Biden telling people not to come out and vote, and then see some folks have, I guess. And then we know everyone is not equal, but people aren't as involved and invested as folks like us. And this is what we try to do with this broadcast, is to inform people. We can't tell you who to vote for. Just go out and vote. But if you don't inform yourself and you're just taking and getting all your information from one source, right? Like people think, if Taylor Swift tells me, if Taylor Swift told me to vote, no matter who, I don't care who she votes for.
That's her call.
Exactly.